Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Tua Tagovailoa's future with the Miami Dolphins is one of the most compelling and quietly tense storylines in the NFL right now. Yes, the Dolphins made headlines by locking in their franchise quarterback with a massive 4-year, $212.4 million extension just before the 2024 season kicked off. It was a clear vote of confidence, a public commitment from the organization that they believe Tua is the guy to lead them, not just for a couple of years, but well into the future. Yet, as is often the case in the high-stakes world of professional football, money doesn't always equal certainty. A recent feature by The Athletic dared to suggest what few have spoken aloud. There might be a plausible world in which 2025 could be Tua's final season in Miami. And while such a scenario might seem unlikely on the surface, it's not entirely out of bounds when you dig into the details, the risks, and the very real pressure surrounding the Dolphins organization. What The Athletic laid out wasn't wild speculation. It was a roadmap of possibilities grounded in financial reality and historical precedent. The key turning point they identified, the conclusion of the 2025 season. Imagine a scenario where the Dolphins stumble through that campaign, finishing with just 5 or 6 wins, falling well short of playoff expectations. The frustration would be palpable, not just among fans, but also within the ownership box. Stephen Ross, the longtime owner of the team, has already signaled that mediocrity will not be tolerated. In such a case, the franchise could opt for a hard reset. New general manager, new head coach, and critically, a new quarterback. That's where things get tricky. Tua, with his well-documented concussion history and physical limitations, could suddenly find himself viewed less as a foundational piece and more as a liability, not because of lack of talent, but because of uncertainty. Uncertainty that a fresh front office might not be willing to gamble on. That's where the cold, hard numbers come in. Tagovailoa's contract isn't just expensive, it's structured in a way that makes moving on from him extraordinarily difficult. According to Over the Cap, cutting Tua after the 2025 season would leave the Dolphins with a staggering $79.2 million dead cap hit. To put that in perspective, the largest dead cap hit in NFL history is Russell Wilson's $85 million post-release charge with the Denver Broncos. It's not a number that teams just casually brush off. Even a post-June 3rd release, which spreads the cap hit over 2 seasons, would still cost the Dolphins $62.4 million. So unless Miami finds a miracle trade partner willing to absorb part of that burden, unlikely considering Tua's injury history and the financial commitment involved, they'd be swallowing a massive financial pill just to make a clean break. That's not an easy decision, no matter how much dissatisfaction brews within the locker room or front office. But let's rewind a bit. It's not like the Dolphins are actively trying to move on from Tua. Far from it. In fact, their recent extension suggests the opposite. They're betting on his continued development and sustained health. Still, the whispers about a possible breakup don't come from nowhere. Tua has shown flashes of elite quarterback play. His accuracy, his timing, his leadership. When he's on, he's very much a top-tier NFL QB. But that's the catch. When he's on. Durability has haunted his career from college through the pros. And it's not something that can be coached or game planned around. One more significant concussion, one more extended absence, and the Dolphins may be forced to rethink everything. That doesn't mean they want to rethink it. It just means they might not have a choice. The margin for error is thin when you're dealing with both massive contracts and fragile health. And this is where the pressure on the current Dolphins regime intensifies. Head coach Mike McDaniel and general manager Chris Grier are closely tied to Tua. Not just professionally, but reputationally. Grier drafted him. McDaniel has molded the offense around him. If the team underperforms, if the offense stagnates, it won't just be Tua under the microscope. It'll be the entire leadership structure. And we've seen it before in the NFL. A disappointing season can lead to a chain reaction of firings and front office shakeups. In that scenario, a new GM and coach duo might look at the roster and see Tua not as a centerpiece, but as a contract to work around. That's the danger zone. It's not about hating Tua or doubting his abilities. It's about fit, vision, and financial flexibility. And if he no longer aligns with any of those pillars, the Dolphins may be tempted to start over no matter how painful the process might be. Let's talk about that pain though, because if the Dolphins do decide to part ways with Tua, it won't be a quiet separation. It'll be messy, dramatic, and extremely expensive. We're talking about a scenario that could reshape the league's financial landscape. A post-June 1st trade is the cleanest break in terms of cap implications, dropping the dead hit to just $8.4 million, but even that requires a trade partner. And how many teams are going to line up for a quarterback with Tua's injury history, carrying a contract that large without significant performance guarantees? It's a gamble, and NFL teams aren't known for throwing dice unless they absolutely have to. Even if such a team exists, perhaps one desperate for quarterback help, like the Patriots or Falcons, it's still a logistical challenge. Tua would need to stay healthy and productive through 2025 to even have that trade value. That's not a guarantee. So for Miami, the road to separation is more like a minefield. It's important to emphasize that all of this remains hypothetical for now. The more likely outcome is that Tua remains in Miami through at least the 2026 season. The contract structure, the belief from the coaching staff, and the team's current competitive window all point to continuity. The Dolphins aren't a rebuilding team, they're a contender. And that means they need stability at quarterback, not chaos. But that's what makes this conversation so fascinating. Because even in a scenario where everything seems lined up for success, the NFL has a funny way of pulling the rug out. One bad season, one unfortunate injury, one shift in management, and everything changes. The Dolphins have built their house on the foundation of Tua Tagovailoa. But if that foundation begins to crack, they may be forced to rebuild whether they want to or not. And that's the core tension playing out behind the scenes. So what should fans make of this all? Should they panic? Absolutely not. But should they pay attention? Without a doubt. The NFL is a league of constant motion. Loyalty is often fleeting, and long-term plans can unravel quickly under the weight of expectations and results. Tua has done more than enough to earn his spot at the helm. His talent is unquestionable, his work ethic is obvious, and his impact on the Dolphins' offense is undeniable. But he's also playing a game with no guarantees. Every snap he takes, every game he plays, he's auditioning not just for his current coaches, but for any potential future decision makers. That's the life of a quarterback in today's NFL. You're only as secure as your last season, your last playoff win, your last clean bill of health. Tua knows that. The Dolphins know that. And that's what makes his narrative worth watching closely in the months ahead. And let's not forget the emotional side of this. Dolphins fans have rallied behind Tua. He's become a symbol of resilience, of fighting back from adversity, of proving the doubters wrong. There's a real bond between Tua and the fan base, one forged through ups and downs, through scares and triumphs. A sudden breakup, even one that makes financial sense, would sting deeply. Not just in the wallet, but in the heart. Fans remember the dark days before Tua. They remember the carousel of quarterbacks, the lack of identity, the hopeless Sunday afternoons. With Tua, the Dolphins found something to believe in again. That matters. It doesn't show up on the stat sheet or in the cap table, but it matters. And it's another factor the Dolphins will have to weigh carefully if and when the time comes to make that kind of seismic decision about their quarterback's future. In conclusion, while the odds are still in favor of Tua Tagovailoa remaining the face of the Miami Dolphins for the foreseeable future, the seeds of uncertainty have been planted. The Athletics report wasn't a hit piece. It was a thoughtful examination of a complex situation that could evolve in unexpected ways. It reminded us that nothing in the NFL is set in stone, especially not contracts. For now, Tua controls his destiny. If he stays healthy, performs at a high level, and leads the Dolphins deep into the playoffs, any talk of separation will vanish as quickly as it came. But if the team stumbles, if injuries resurface, if the whispers turn to shouts, the path to a split is already drawn, ready to be followed. It's up to Tua and the Dolphins to ensure that path remains only theoretical. Otherwise, the biggest story of the 2025 offseason might not be who's joining the Dolphins, but who's leaving, still with them. Then show some love. hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? The Miami Dolphins might have just found themselves at the center of a storm that's bigger than anything on the field. Rumors are circulating around a heated exchange between two of their biggest stars, TYREEK Hill and Jaylen Waddle. According to several unnamed sources close to the team, the Dolphins' locker room turned tense after a recent practice, with the two-star wide receivers engaging in a loud argument that reportedly escalated to the point where teammates had to step in and separate them. While no physical altercation is confirmed, those present described the scene as intense and completely unexpected. This has sparked immediate speculation among fans and insiders alike. What could have triggered such a confrontation between two of the NFL's most electric offensive weapons? Whatever the cause, this kind of tension could ripple throughout the roster, especially with training camp in full swing and expectations sky high for the upcoming season. Some insiders suggest that the incident might stem from growing frustration over offensive dynamics. TYREEK Hill, known for his outspoken nature and explosive play style, has always been a high-energy leader both on and off the field. Jaylen Waddle, while more reserved publicly, has emerged as a critical piece of Miami's offense. And it's no secret that both players demand touches and attention. Sources claim that during practice, Hill was visibly frustrated with Waddle cutting into his reps or getting more designed plays from the coaching staff. This reportedly led to a verbal jab from Hill, which Waddle didn't take lightly. From there, voices were raised. Teammates quickly turned their heads, and before anyone realized it, the scene had escalated into a full-blown shouting match that drew the attention of coaches and players alike. As emotions ran high, veteran players stepped in, urging both stars to cool down and take a breather. What makes this situation even more intriguing is the timing. The Dolphins are gearing up for what many analysts predict could be their best season in years. With Tua Tagovailoa finally healthy and Mike McDaniel entering his third year as head coach. Continuity is supposed to be a strength this season, yet behind-the-scenes friction like this can throw a wrench into even the most well-oiled plans. Sources say the coaching staff is already holding closed-door meetings to address the chemistry issues bubbling beneath the surface. While no official statements have been released by the team, fans have taken to social media to speculate wildly. Now, some believe this could be the beginning of a locker room divide, with players taking sides between Hill's veteran presence and Waddle's rising star status. Others think it's just a flare-up, typical of ultra-competitive athletes pushing each other in the heat of summer prep. Still, there's more to this than just a simple disagreement. Multiple reports suggest that this isn't the first time Hill and Waddle have butted heads behind closed doors. While their on-field connection appears solid, often celebrating each other's big plays, off-field dynamics may be more complicated. Teammates have hinted in interviews that there's a friendly rivalry between the two, but what happens when that rivalry becomes less friendly and more personal? Could it be a clash of egos? After all, Hill has always been the centerpiece wherever he's played, and with Waddle's role increasing each year, it's natural for friction to emerge, especially when big personalities are involved. That even a slight shift in team strategy or media attention can ignite underlying tensions, creating a situation that's as explosive as their combined yards after catch. It's worth noting that this isn't the first time TYREEK Hill has found himself in the middle of controversy. His competitive fire is part of what makes him great, but it's also been a source of conflict throughout his career. Whether it's public spats with defenders, media soundbites that stir the pot, or moments of visible frustration on the sidelines, Hill isn't shy about showing emotion. On the other hand, Waddle has always been seen as more reserved, but those close to the team suggest he's grown more assertive as his role in the offense has expanded. That growing confidence could be rubbing Hill the wrong way, particularly if he feels his spotlight is being dimmed. Add in contract incentives, endorsements, and media narratives, and suddenly you have a perfect storm of competitiveness that can boil over into confrontation when least expected. The Dolphins front office is reportedly aware of the situation and monitoring it closely. There's a belief that Coach McDaniel will address the locker room directly in the coming days, not just to ease tension, but to reassert team unity. The organization knows how critical it is to keep their stars aligned, both literally and figuratively, if they want to make a deep playoff run. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are the heart of the team's high-flying offense, and any fracture in their relationship could impact on-field chemistry. It's a delicate balance to maintain, allowing passionate players to express themselves, while ensuring that personal differences don't sabotage the collective mission. The coaching staff is reportedly walking a tightrope, trying not to blow things out of proportion, while also recognizing that unresolved conflict can simmer and resurface at the worst possible moments. Fans are already divided. On one hand, there are those who appreciate the intensity and passion that both Hill and Waddle bring to the team. They argue that sometimes clashes like this are just a byproduct of players who care deeply about winning and pushing each other to be the best. On the other hand, there's concern that this signals a deeper problem, one that could derail a season full of promise. Some have pointed out that Miami's locker room, while talented, has several strong personalities, and managing that chemistry is just as important as executing on Sundays. The Dolphins fan base has been here before, seeing teams with high expectations implode due to off-field drama. Whether this situation becomes just a footnote or a headline will depend on how the team handles it in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, neither Hill nor Waddle has addressed the rumors publicly, which only adds fuel to the fire. In today's hyper-connected world, silence can often be interpreted as guilt or confirmation. Social media sleuths have noted that Hill and Waddle have not interacted on Instagram or Twitter in recent days, and some have even speculated that one or both players have unfollowed each other, a classic modern-day sign of beef. Whether or not that's true, the optics matter, especially when fans and media are desperate for clues. The lack of a clear, unified front from either player gives the impression that the issue is ongoing, not resolved. If that's the case, the Dolphins could be looking at a rocky path ahead, unless leadership steps in and bridges the divide before it gets worse. There's also the looming specter of contract drama. While Hill is locked into a massive deal, Waddle is nearing the point where his rookie contract will be up for extension, and he'll be looking to cash in. That kind of scenario always brings complications, especially when one superstar is already being paid and the other is looking to prove he deserves equal recognition. Even if neither player says it aloud, that undercurrent of value, status, and respect can drive wedges between teammates. Add to that, a coaching staff that must make tough decisions about play design, target share, and long-term planning, and suddenly you have an internal power dynamic that's tricky to navigate. Could this locker room blow-up be the first visible crack in what was supposed to be one of the most dynamic duos in the league? For now, all eyes remain on the Dolphins' next media availability, where reporters will surely press for answers. Will Coach McDaniel downplay the incident as just competitive juices flowing? Will Hill or Waddle finally speak out, either to squash the rumors or confirm them, or will this all be brushed under the rug until the next flashpoint inevitably emerges? One thing is certain, this story isn't going away anytime soon. In a league where perception is often as powerful as performance, the Dolphins have a major PR and team management challenge on their hands. If they want to contend for a Super Bowl, it won't just be about playbooks and execution. It'll be about keeping the locker room unified. And right now, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle reportedly at odds, that goal seems more complicated than ever. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll never miss a splash. Fins up!